In the last video we got as far as creating views for adding message posts and photo posts and listing all posts. In this video I want to look at the issues of filtering these posts so not all posts are displayed, filtering by a date range or by a user, as well as the adding comments to each of the posts, displaying the images as images rather than file names, and liking and unliking posts. Now, in fact, I went wrong in the last video. You probably remember that I thought for some reason I had to load the messages separately from the photos and then combine them back together again. Well, I don't. So that's going to go. I'm back to using all the posts from the posts data set, and I'm introducing you to how you can select certain posts. So in this case we are sorting the posts in descending order of timestamp, and to do this we're using LINQ and we're using a Lambda expression. LINQ stands for Language Integrated Query. It's based on SQL, but it's done by using C# extension methods. So OrderBy descending is an extension method of posts, and toList async converts it into a list asynchronously. You'll notice it's an asynchronous method and waits for the method to finish. Asynchronous methods allow the system to do other things while this process is carrying on. A separate thread is issued to process this command. But don't worry about that. It's a performance thing. In our case, the number of records we're dealing with is very small, so it won't make much difference. But I've put a dot here. You can see that you can extend these methods further by all sorts of methods, such as average, working out the average, counting, finding the first, finding the last, including things, ordering things, finding the maximum, finding the minimum, selecting things, skipping things, summing things. There's a whole list of extension methods available. And the one you might want at some point is this one, where we're looking for posts with a particular username in mind. So if I put that line in, that extension method, it'll be in descending order of timestamp and it'll only be for that user. Okay, so now only Derek's posts are viewable. This main tutorial I advise you to look at, EF Core with MVC. There's a key part of the tutorial here which shows you how to do searching and sorting. You do it by adding extra parameters to the index method to add a sort order to it, and then you can sort it in various ways, so that page is helpful. So I'm adding a parameter to the index method, a string called username, and we can change this now. So I'll get all the posts first, and then if we have a username, as it is null or empty method we can use. And obviously we want the opposite if it's not null or empty. Then we can filter the posts. Doesn't matter what letter you use in these Lambda expressions. I chose U for user. Okay, I've not met that error message before. It wants me to cast it into a list of posts. You notice this was a var, which means it's going to try and work out itself what this should result in, which should have been a list of posts. Anyway, I've added that and it's happy now. But now we need to be able to pass a username back to the index method. Okay, so I've added this form. So it's a small form. It's in the header. You notice the ASP action is the index action, and it's still the get method, so it's going back to where it came from. It's not a post method, it goes back to the get method. And then I've just got a prompt saying find by name, and there's the text box for the username. Here's a submit button. Alternatively, there's another button here if we want to go back to the full list, not searching by a particular name. Okay, and the key thing is the name here. That name there has to be the same as the name is in the index method parameter. I can show you that if I go back to the post controller and we put a breakpoint there and run it. This is the first time it's coming here, so the username is null, so it doesn't do this. If I continue, okay, here's where we can put a name in. It is case sensitive, though we could cure that if we wanted to. And there's the search button. Yeah, it's gone here, sorry. There, look, there's the name, Gita, has come through as the username. If I continue now, we're back and only Gita's posts are now available. However, you'll notice I've changed the query. I've switched it from using a method query, from using LINQ method query, method and using the LINQ method syntax, to using the query syntax, which is very much like SQL. So I'm saying I want the posts from posts. I'm just selecting them all. Here I'm using the method syntax, that seems to be alright there. So if we got a username, the posts will get filtered where the usernames match. And here's where we convert it to an asynchronous list and pass it to the view. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do on filtering. I'll leave you to try to work out the data on yourselves, I'm afraid. I'm going to move on to comments and likes now. For commenting and likes, I'm going to use the photo post. I'm going to use the details method, because we haven't looked at that before, but I've modified the details method. So in the details method we can view a post as it would look like to somebody reading the post. And instead of just seeing the file name, I've loaded an image. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. but otherwise this is the post. I've added some new buttons down the bottom here, as well as the usual edit button. I have a like button, add unlike button, and an add comments button, which don't work yet. Okay, and I'm using these icons from Bootstrap. So if you go to Bootstrap Icons, you'll see that they have a whole range of icons now. I tended to use the ones from Font Awesome, but these are okay. You can install them easily by just copying this link here, the CDN link, and pasting that into your, I'll have to stop the run now, posting that into your layout page. So I pasted it there. It's the last link here to CDN, JSDeliver.net, Bootstrap Icons, etc. And if you look at my details page, you'll see that you can just copy an icon from Bootstrap. So if you select an icon from Bootstrap, you can just go and copy the code for that icon. Okay, now the image is relatively simple. What I've done is put images in the www.root images folder. I've got 3 images, a dog, a cat and a canary, just as examples. I know in the real world you need to offer the user a file upload, but that's a step too far for this app. So just put the images there if you're going to use images. And then all you have to do is an image tag where you're using the file name. So it's images, goes to the root folder, which is www.root, and the images folder, and then the file name. Okay, so now we've got the problem of these buttons, the like button, the unlike button, and the comment button. Let's do the like and unlike first. Okay, so I'm in the photo post controller. I've added a like method. I'm not using the async. I'm just going to use an ordinary method without asynchronization. The ID comes in. That comes in because in the button we used ASP root ID and passed it the post ID there. And that small ID there has to match this ID here. So if I hover over, if I click on the like button and I hover over there, I get 7. And then if I continue, it goes back to the details page, which is on my other screen, which is there. Okay, so if I show you again, like goes there, continue, and it's back to here again. But obviously we need to do something in between, get between those actions. So when we come to the like method with the ID, oh dear, I've done the wrong place, sorry. We can find that photo post based on the ID. We must check that it comes back, and we have found it. If we haven't found it, we'll put a message out. Okay, now we have got a photo post. The photo post has a like method. There we go. We've liked that photo post, and now we need to update the database. So I've copied some code from the edit method. Where essentially we try and update the database with this photo post, with its new likes, and save the changes. If that fails, we throw an exception. Otherwise we come back, so hopefully that's going to work. Let's give it a try. There we go. We have now 1 like. Oh, let's have a few more. Yeah. There we go. That's better. We have 5 likes, so the like button is now working. Okay, just for simplicity, I've gone and copied the like method and renamed it unlike, and it does everything the other method does except that it calls the unlike method in the photo post, but otherwise it's the same. Ideally I should refactor that because that's unnecessary code duplication, but I'm not going to take off marks if you do code duplication in the web side of things for the moment, as it's rather complex. Yep, there we go. Popularity of the dog is falling. Okay, so there's your likes and unlikes. We're left now with the comments. So I've created a comment class, which is a comment ID, the primary key, which is an integer, a foreign key, so that this comment can be linked to whichever post it refers to, the text of the comment, and then here a virtual post, so you can get from the comment to the post itself. So we've linked the comment to the post. We now need to link the posts to the comment. So this is the base post class. I've added this public virtual I collection of comment called comments. So each post has multiple comments. Each comment refers to a single post, so it's a one-to-many relationship we've now established. Okay, so the next stage is to get this attached to the database through the application DB context. Okay, so I've added a line, a DB set of comment called comments to the application DB context. We now need a database migration. Let's make sure it builds first. Going to the package manager console now. Add a migration. Add comments. Okay, so it's going to create a new table, which is fine. Okay, we should have a comments table now. And we do. There's an empty comments table. I forgot to annotate these properties. I won't bother adding a string length now, but ideally I would have put a string length in there, but what's more important is we need multi-line text. That's data type. That's data type multi-line text. That should make no difference to the database. That's how the text is displayed in the view. It's not a change, it doesn't require a change to the database. I now have to admit to having made a rather silly mistake, which has caused me an hour's worth of grief till I found out exactly what it was, and it's very minor, but it's very important. Here is the post again. Have a look at it carefully. And then here is the comment again. Do you notice any inconsistencies? Well, here I put the primary key as comment ID with a capital I, capital D. Here I put the post ID with a capital I, D, I and a small d. So initially my comment had a post capital I, capital D here, which didn't match that. And these names are case sensitive. So I've had to change the comment post ID to a small d. But if you look in the database, you will see that in the comments table it's still a capital D, whereas in the posts table it's a small id. Now for some reason that hasn't triggered a database migration. I can't change these names, but I have now got it working by changing it in the class. So please be very careful. Keep your IDs either capital ID or I small d. Don't mix them. I've now added a controller and views for the comments. So I've got a comments controller. I don't really need the views from the comments controller that much. But what I do need, I don't need the index method really. What I do need is I do need to be able to create a new comment, which is here. So I've replaced the code that was here, because we need to be able to create a comment and attach it to a post. So that ID there is the ID of the post it's going to be attached to. So I can get the posts. Don't worry about this view bag, it doesn't actually work. And that can come out. But we do need to create a new comment, and we do need to pass it that ID. That's the crucial thing. And I've linked, I'm going to call this create method in the comments controller from the post details view. So here, this is the details view for a post, the bottom of which are all these like, unlike and add comments buttons. So here's the add comments button, and the key thing here is that I'm using the ASP.root and passing it the model post ID, and it's going to the comments controller and the comments create method passing the ID. So when we create a comment, it's going to know the post ID. So if you look at the comments create method, you can see I've taken out the select list, which is allowing you to select a post ID. We don't need that. And I've passed in the post ID. Now I've just put a text box there, but we don't actually need to see this. That's the post ID, which comes in with a new comment. And all we have is the one field where the text of the comment is done, and then we go back to the post create method in the comments controller, which I haven't altered. That's as it was written by Microsoft. So it comes in with the comments and the post ID and the text, and it saves the comment. Okay, but obviously we need to see these comments. So if I go back to the post details method, I've added this now, a new division at the bottom, where I'm putting, if it is null or the count is nil, then we haven't got any comments. So we just put out that. Otherwise, we're going to go for each comment and write the text. Okay, so if I run that now. Okay, so here you are in a photo post. I've only done the photo post. Obviously you can do the same thing to the message posts. So a photo post, I've got my dog post. If we go to the details of the dog post, there's the dog post with the likes again. And here are some comments I made earlier. We can click on the comment button now and put in a new comment. And create. And we've now got 3 comments. Okay, so that's as far as I'm going to take it. You can tidy that up and take it further yourself, but I think I've shown you enough now to do majority of the operations you need for App04 solely in a web version.